right, hello and welcome to the BCE Comics Pod. We are the podcast that reads, rates, and reviews big collected edition comics twice a month now, weekly episodes, doing two a month, one every 2 weeks. I'm battling now. I am Nick Smith, and I'm joined by.
Stojr from Stojr Shelf, who abruptly cuts off the intro music because he gets a little click happy. But how's it going, Nick?
I'm okay. I'm frustrated by the continued computer problems with when I do the hosting. So I think we're making you the permanent host now. And if the last episode seemed like it cut off abruptly, well, that's because we had to cut it off, and we're gonna make up for that on this one. We basically lost two issues that we planned on covering because the quality just became terrible. So we're gonna do it over again.
We'll do it live. We'll do it again.
Can it be live if we're recording this a week in advance?
No, no. Do you remember? Do you remember that like internet meme? Was it the guy that was on Fox News and he did like inside the what was that like tabloid show that was on 7:30 at night in the 90s or something like that, Inside Edition or something like that. And there's a scene of there's a video of him like just doing a rehearsal and getting like irate, and he's just like, F it, we'll do it live, and just always sticks in my head. So
I
whenever
don't
you hear
think
that,
I've
it's
ever
just,
seen that one.
yeah, I'll have to send you the clip. So
Okay.
all right,
Well,
what are we starting with, Nick?
so we're gonna wrap up the Inferno oversized hardcover, and then after wrapping that up, we've got five more X-Men issues that we're going to cover to kind of keep up with this Claremont run that Curtis Finley at the Epic Marvel Podcast is doing. We're following along. We're just following behind because we're the slow ones in the group. But we're gonna start with Uncanny X-Men number 241. All right. We got that up there. We've got that. Okay.
Yep.
My notes have taken up so much room. I'm not seeing the screen now. Okay. This one is called Fan the Flames. All right. So as the X-Men confront the Marauders, the spell that is overtaking New York seems to be affecting them too, and they are becoming nastier and more violent. The lone exception is Colossus, because Colossus is an Iron Man, and apparently, well, not the Iron Man. He's a steel guy, but that has iron in it, or I don't know. I'm not a metallurgist. Anyway, Magic doesn't like his metal skin, so Colossus is not being affected, but he learns from one of the smiley robots that is a henchman for the right, one that had been sent to Limbo. He learns that Ileana has been usurped by Sim in Limbo, and so Colossus decides he needs to go save Ileana, and if he can save his sister, then maybe that in turn is going to save the X-Men, that they can sort out this Limbo business. Meanwhile, Madeline Pryor engages in a conversation with Mr. Sinister, and Mr. Sinister reveals that Madeline is a clone and one whom he has manipulated to meet and marry Scott Summers so that the two of them will have a child, and Mr. Sinister can steal that child one day, and hopefully that child will have some remnants of the Phoenix Force in it or something like that. But Sinister was unprepared for Madeline's newfound partner and all the help that she's been receiving from Mystere. I think I got that one right. Stojer, your thoughts?
I am really starting to enjoy this storyline and really getting dialed in. And as somebody who's not a huge fan of Mark Silvestri's art, I thought I would grow to appreciate it in reading this stuff. I kind of think he's good, but just not my cup of tea. These issues, I have to provide respect where respect is due. Right? I mean, there's some really strong art, some bold colors in here. Um, you know, everything in here with with her. This double page spread here. Let me see if I can get that up a little bit better. I mean, that just looks amazing. And
Mm-hmm.
and to get this rematch, this sort of part two rematch with the Marauders versus the X-Men, where we're able to see, Colossus sitting here finally with that realization of in, right? Hey, I killed you. Like, what's going on here? And you get these little hints that, maybe the Marauders here are are clones. They're not, outright saying that yet, but it's pretty obvious if you're dealing with clones, like where did this sort of come It makes sense that Colossus would go off and try and find Kitty. Uh, Marvel Unlimited. I'm trying to flip as I talk here.
Oh, looks
Uh,
like you lost a page.
yeah, I think it needs to.
You got signed out.
You know,
This this is why no one wants.
I'm gonna have to call Marvel and get them to straighten this out. And
Well,
it
now
and it
you're on the
backed me
next
out an
episode.
issue, so
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna go back to here and talk while I try and get it to go where I want it. So yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like him going away from the X-Men to try and save his sister. He thinks that that's going to solve these problems with everything that's going on. And it sort of has a they touch on that thought process again in Age of Apocalypse, because ultimately, like, he abandons the X-Men fully to save his sister, dooming Generation Next, I think they called it at the time, uh in the Age of Apocalypse. So he's always got a very strong family dynamic throughout these things. um I am I'm trying to think of if there's any other points that I had with this issue, but I mean, I think like the exposition. Oh, I remember that there's also now that I have the comic viewer working. So there's also this mailbox scene here, which they kind of revisit this mailbox in the Dark Web storyline. That I think they have this in the Free Comic Book Day that introduces Madeline again into that Spider-Man X-Men crossover by Zeb Wells a couple years back, and specifically that mailbox comes back too. So little cool Easter eggs. I still hate these robots. I think they look stupid as heck with the big giant smiles. But these X-Men right here with they get more like, sinister looking, pun intended, really look pretty cool. Like Storm just with that evil grin, but Wolverine, his mask is melting into his face here. And he's growing those claws as he goes out here, just that kind of like dark smile with Psylocke, and everything else is getting a little bit nastier as they go through this stuff. So I really enjoyed this. I think like her getting her hands back on Nathan finally is really fitting, and then where we go from here is going to be your
Yeah.
thoughts.
I admittedly thought this one was a little confusing, jumping back and forth between the X-Men and Madeline's stories, but it was still very interesting. And having this reveal that Madeline is a clone and was created by Mr. Sinister, it kind of made me wonder how long Claremont had been planning this. So I did a little bit of digging. And apparently, the original plan was for Madeline Pryor to be just who she appeared to be, right? She was an individual who worked for Scott's grandparents in Alaska, and she just so happened to look just like Jean Grey. She and Scott were to be married, and then Scott would retire from the X-Men and be written out of the book, essentially. But then the plan came to be to launch X Factor and to get the original X-Men back together. Well, to do that, they had to resurrect Jean Grey from the dead. I saw something that they were originally planning on maybe just having Dazzler take her place so that there'd be a female member, but no, like, nope, has to be the original X-Men, so that means we need Jean back. And then that creates this uncomfortable position for Scott abandoning his wife and child so that he can join X Factor because editorial demanded it. And Claremont said that he hated what that did to the character of Scott Summers. And obviously, it's something we've been complaining about, right? It does make Scott look like an ass. So, how do you fix that? How do you make Scott Summers a hero again? Well, this is it, right? This is the fix. Madeline is, in fact, a clone of Jean Grey. They look the same for a reason. She and Scott have both been manipulated by Mr. Sinister, and she is going to be, well, taken care of at the end of this event, right? So it's not an elegant solution, but I get how they get here given the editorial interference of trying to bring Jean Grey back and pull Scott out of retirement like Claremont had planned, right?
Mhm.
Um, so in my mind, that's something that clouds this event a little bit, that it occurs because of not necessarily what the creators wanted, but because of what editorial wanted.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
All
All right,
right,
should we
ready to
move
go to the
on
next one?
to yeah. So this is X Factor number 37, A Matter of Honor. That cover's embedded in my mind. I think I may have had this issue as when I was younger, but just having Madeline, hold her baby up like that right in front of the X, really cool design there. Okay, so X Factor fight through the demons in Manhattan, and when Nasir appears before them with Scott's baby, he quickly disappears though, and is replaced by Madeline as the Goblin Queen, and she is now holding baby Nathan. Well, Madeline has clearly become unhinged at this point because of what she has learned about her past, and with this massive power that Nasir has unlocked within her. So she views Scott and X Factor as enemies for having abandoned her, and she begins lashing out at the team. And for their part, X Factor try to rescue the baby without harming Madeline as best they can, but they can't stand up to her power. And it seems like the X-Men are also about to enter into the fray here. All right, Soja, your thoughts on this one?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I think like Madeline confronting Scott makes this a really powerful issue. Yeah, the comic viewer again as I flip through it and refresh my thoughts. Having done these things twice, it now throws me off. As I, what are the? I find myself repeating myself, and I'm like, wait, that's actually a good thing though. So I think it's really like the thing that you've been building towards of Scott not knowing where his wife and son are, finally seeing them again, but he can't, they're just out of reach, right? And,
Mm-hmm.
his wife is now betraying him, or, she's getting her revenge for being betrayed. And she's able to, and he's finally able to, get in contact or close enough to his son, and try and explain himself. But I mean, there's just so much rage here. And really, from the reader perspective and from her perspective, you kind of understand it. All of these problems, by the way, would be solved with a cell phone, but they didn't exist at that particular point. I think that the the uh, the possessiveness that she has over Nathan, like she gave birth to him, right? And and she's looking at this person who she's a copy of, but she's like clinging on to that baby, like you're not going to get this one person that's mine. And it's funny, I didn't talk about this the first time we went about this, but X-Men 97 did a really good job with this. They summed all this up in sort of one episode, where she realizes that she's a clone. Sinister comes back. She does this whole thing. They confront her and they get it to like a reconciliation, and move on. So while this is much more of an event and that was just one episode, this is a really powerful storyline of like, you know, this thing is just such a mess, right? You're a copy of this person. You were originally dead. This person's now a real baby, but they're a baby of the copy. And so whose memories are what and all of that stuff, really comes starting to like, think through all the logistics of that now that we have the confirmation of what she is and what people might have suspected or what we know for a fact looking back on this. So what do you think about this?
Yeah. This is good. Now, on the one hand, the ranting that Madeline engages in, it, as you say, it makes sense to us, the readers, because we've read the other bits of the crossover, right? But if one hadn't read the rest of that, then she does come off as this crazy woman, and that's how the members of X Factor are perceiving her, right? That she's gone insane. So having her rant like this, and then the members of X Factor not understand her, it's really good for realism, right? It makes a lot of sense for us, the reader. Um, this issue's still a bit of a jumbled mess, though. At least we're finally setting up what I'd always imagined was the major conflict of this book, because of Madeline trying to claim the baby for herself, and then ending with that cliffhanger of Wolverine reaching out to Jean. That's just great. These two teams haven't yet met one another in their current incarnations because, the X Factor believes the X-Men are dead. The X-Men believe X Factor are a bunch of mutant hunters and maybe traitors or whatever it is. And the X Factor book has been out for 3 years by this point. That this issue's been published. So it's time that these two meet one another. So that's just a really great cliffhanger there.
Yeah, I mean, it's been what 40 issues of Uncanny since Scott's had any interaction, or at least since Madeline and Scott were there. I mean, that was the birth of Nathan in 201.
Hmm.
It's been quite a while. X Factor's got 37 issues out there. I don't think any of this stuff, well, maybe some of it was bi-monthly. Actually, no, say it out loud,
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
but still, it's been a while.
Yeah. Um, is uh is this the issue where Madeline says what she's going to do with Nathan, or does that come later? Do you remember?
I believe that
I think
I
that
don't I
comes
don't
later.
remember.
So I'm looking at the end, and she's holding Nathan in front of X Factor, and she says, you doing?" I think we learn what she's going to do with the child later, so I'll hold off on that until we
Yeah.
get there.
Yep, I'm with you. All right, ready to move on to the New Mutants?
Yeah. All right, so this is New Mutants number 73, The Gift. Mike Manley joins Al Williamson on inks, so double inking duties here. Um, as the fight for Earth continues, Ileana makes the decision to sacrifice herself in order to save the Earth and to recall the demons from Limbo. This was partly inspired by Renee and some of the other New Mutants following her into Limbo and finding Ileana's child self. They come up with the plan to rescue the child Ileana and thus prevent her from growing up and becoming the Dark Child, who then opened the gate to Limbo in the first place, right? It's kind of a time travel story in a sense. Um, well, whatever Ileana ends up doing, she succeeds, but it comes at the cost of Ileana becoming a child again, or the original child was rescued, or something. I admit I'm not really sure what happened in this one. And Sim is defeated in the end as well, and I don't remember how or why. But Nasir still has some plan for the Goblin Queen and her child. All right, Stoger, your thoughts?
So yeah, I agree that some of this stuff is is really confusing as we go through this. But for me, to get this like sort of momentous conclusion to everything that Ileana's gone through, to her, managing Limbo, to her, losing 7 years of her life, like to have this sort of child that was forced to grow up and kill her friends and be abused by these creatures and finally, get this sort of get out of jail free card. On the one hand, I don't like the get out of jail free card because it seems a little bit too convenient as opposed to just kind of killing her off. On the other hand, they set this up from the very beginning with all the portals and the time travel and the different things that happen throughout Limbo. So this is not something that they invented just to kind of get through this. But they did take advantage of here. It also is interesting that we get like, again, just a little cameo of this super team of Magneto and the Hellfire Club, not really doing much except having a conversation and making everybody distrust him. Where's our Hellfire Club book with all those really super powered people? That would actually be a pretty interesting, like, they do this like Lost Tales or
Oh,
um
Untold
like Peter,
Tales, that sort of thing.
yeah, like Peter David did like symbiote Spider-Man, and squeezed things into different stories. The Untold Tales did it, classic X-Men or whatever the
Yeah.
burn one was. I forget, it wasn't classic
The Hidden Years.
The Hid Years, thank you.
Sorry, I looked up that way because I bought the Omni not that long
Yeah.
ago. So
So some of that, that would be like an interesting story to me. But yeah, I mean, for me, like all of this stuff gets a little bit confusing, and a little silly with the superhero lock and stuff like that. But I'm just so happy that, we get this sort of like closure to this, and at the end of the day, Colossus gets his little. So
yeah,
I'm going to be happy with that. What are your thoughts?
yeah, that is kind of sweet at the end, right? That the girl who grew up too fast is back to being a girl again. That I guess that is nice. I admit my recap doesn't really do this issue justice. I still find it confusing. and I've never really cared for the dark child part of Ileana's character. Like, I mean, I get it; it creates some drama and that sort of thing. But at least this issue definitely reads better than the previous New Mutants issue, so I appreciate that. And yes, the story is coming to a head, so it's a big resolution for the New Mutants, Ileana in particular. So that's nice. Um, Shout out to Brett Blevins again. I think its art is just great for all the weird and wacky demonic stuff. Um, I like his Colossus too, the way he drew Colossus in there. Although Colossus has maybe a bit of a cartoony face, but he's I don't know if it's on the next page from where you are, Stoder. There was one where there's a close up of Colossus, but um, anyway, it doesn't matter. Uh, I I'm digging his art for this. It just works really well, I think.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And to have Colossus kind of rip open that armor and free his sister towards good stuff. Even if, as an X-Men reader, into the 90s, I know what's going to happen to certain individuals here anyway. So, it's fun. It feels good now, while
Yeah.
and you can enjoy it while it lasts. Brett does probably the best like little baby drawing that I've seen in all of these books. Now that I flip to this last page here, because everybody else draws like babies, like kind of awkward, and that one, this one kind of looks like a little kid there. I'm buying that one.
Hmm. Yeah.
All
Maybe
right.
also a shout out to the inker. The very thick lines, I think, very helped Blevins' art
Hmm.
with the tone of this, right?
Yeah. No, agree. All right, you
All
ready
right.
for our next double-sized issue?
Yeah, here we go. This is Uncanny X-Men number 242, Burn. The X-Men are still acting erratically, so naturally when they come upon X Factor, there's a misunderstanding and they have to fight. In the superhero tradition, the two teams have to fight one another. Well, Madeline is able to sneak away with her son, and she brings Havoc with her new lover, right? So they're not going to get up to things. The two of them ascend to the top of a growing Empire State Building, where Madeline plans to, and here's where I'm starting to get lost. She plans to sacrifice her child to make the opening between New York and Limbo permanent, and Nasir is going to join them. All this effort to get her child back just to kill him, but okay, that's where we are. Eventually, the two X teams recognize that Nasir, whatever we're going to call him, he's the real enemy, and they team up to defeat him by causing his now techno organic circuitry to overload. But rather than New York returning back to normal, it stays as a quasi limbo, and it seems that Madeline has been behind a bit more than the X teams realize. All right, your thoughts on this one, Stozier?
I mean, there are so many moments in this issue that are just so great. So I mean, frankly, I'm gonna cheat a little bit with my what I like and go through page by page because some of this stuff is, yeah, really,
I'm going to
really good.
follow along.
So,
I've got my physical copy
all
here.
right, so we get that Jean and Logan kiss on the first page. Forget about the fact that Logan was turning into a monster last we saw him. He can, his healing factor can fight that off so that he can get some of his redheaded girlfriend, or
He's got to check out those tonsils, make sure
would
they're
like
still
to be.
there.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, and then just we're gonna double down on that on this double page spread where we get all of the X-Men laid out in this like spooky kind of park scene that looks like the middle of Halloween with that red moon. I mean, I'm not going to complain about Sylvester's art in this.
And
This
and
looks great.
the Angel of Death kind of looming over them
Yeah.
too. That's just a really great positioning there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Kind of flipping forward here. So we get a lot of like good moments, right? So you get Jean pushing Logan off because, hey, like they were never together. Like what the hell's going on here, right? From her perspective. Um you get Havoc defending Madeline, not that big a deal, but Angel and Wolverine going at it. This is on brand for them. Like they've never liked each other. So having read through Claremont's run and really understanding these two, like nobody's being mind controlled here. Like these two just don't like each other, right? So there's gonna be some attacking, there's gonna be some fighting as they go through this. interesting that Rogue tries to take his powers, and the sort of apocalypse power that he's been given allows him to sort of fight that off. Again, they only know Rogue as a villain. She spent most of her time, with the X-Men, maybe Scott a little bit, but most of her time with the X-Men after the original five kind of separated. These two must be, starting to get, infected, right? You get that little dark star on
Long
him
shot and
here.
Dazzler.
They're gonna Dazzler's gonna get what she wants by getting her little hippie boyfriend or whatever on the banks of the river while everybody else is busy fighting demons. Um, what was the other one? Oh, and how can we forget? How can we like not talk about the amazing outfit of Havoc? I mean, this is
He's just matching his gal.
he's matching his gal. This is a ridiculous outfit that he'll have to wear for the rest. I mean, as if this guy was not, embarrassed enough, stealing his brother's wife and losing his other girlfriend to being possessed. Um, but once they get through all this stuff, and of course, who are the people that really start to snap everybody out of it? But it's Jean and Storm, and again they play this up in the X-Men 97 so well too. We're gonna have to do like a watch through of this too. But these two being friends makes sense. I didn't realize, like, you didn't necessarily get that they were this close, but they spent enough time together like that. I mean, Jean left so quickly. It was like what, like 40 issues in or something like that.
Yeah. I
um
felt like they tried to push the Storm Jean friendship early on in Claremont's run to
yeah,
make it seem like it was deeper than what it really had time to become,
sure.
but we established it that way
But
that
if
they're
we've
close friends.
established
So,
it and we're gonna have them reunite here, it
yeah.
makes sense that they're together. And then as you get later on in the issue, you get some of this sort of team up stuff, right? So this sort of did we do the fastball special yet? Or is that later? I think that's later. So we get the ice shoot with Colossus, right? Where they,
Hmm.
Iceman gives him this little slide and shoots back at him. And then I think in a few pages we'll get a quick fastball special. Yeah, here we go. And we get a double fastball special. It looks like Wolverine's throwing it too. So I mean, how do you not like this? Like, not you, but how could
Yeah.
anyone not like this? This is the payoff for all of the stuff that we've been like waiting for since these teams separated, since Jean died. And it's this great reunion between all these characters. And I read this and I was so hyped and enjoying the team ups, enjoying the everybody being back together. Um, you know, and loving every page of this. Does it mean every page made sense and everything landed? No, not necessarily. But you get them battling the steer, and ultimately we defeat him in this, right? As a
Oh, how did it black out on that page? You were just about to get to one of the greatest uh splash pages there. It's always the comic viewer. I swear.
it doesn't like to sit too long.
It's whenever
Uh,
something goes wrong, it's the comic viewer. I
yeah.
feel like
So
I wish we gave it a name instead of just calling it the comic viewer.
yeah. Well, this one's Marvel Unlimited. I'll give it a name. But it just seems to black out if it's sitting too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so what are your thoughts as I try and bring that page up to be the background for you?
It's all good. I really enjoyed this one, right? It was great to see the fight between X-Men and X-Factor. And I'm sure this is something that a lot of people, yeah, there it is. And with the creepy smiling skyscrapers in the front there. That's just cool.
Hmm.
Um, I'm sure this was something that a lot of people were looking forward to have these two teams running parallel for 3 years. Um, I don't know if it felt like the most satisfying fight between them though, because the X-Men clearly weren't themselves for most of it until, Storm and Jean kind of snap everyone out. But to that point, I kind of don't understand why only the X-Men's personalities are being affected by the Inferno. We get the explanation for why Colossus is not because of his steel body. But why isn't X Factor affected? And I say that, and now I think, well, maybe it's because Madeline was with the X-Men more than she was with X Factor, that she's the one that's really messing with their minds. But I don't know if that's explicitly said in this issue or any of the
I
others.
mean, it's somewhat inconsistent too, right? Like it just kind of it's a little chaotic, I guess is my point. As you as
Yeah,
the influence. But yeah, I would assume you're right. It's never stated. It's because there's closer proximity. She knows them better. She can influence them. She knows what like how to push their buttons. She's not going to know that with the rest of them.
yeah. Um, and I do think Silvestri's art is great here. I know you're not the biggest fan, Stoger, but I think there's a lot of emotions that we can pick out of the characters just from the drawings in this. It doesn't have to be stated, so that's really good. There's a ton of detail. I really like what he's doing in this.
Well, I also think like in these issues, like the major complaint I have is more on the coloring than the
Mm,
pencil work. And in these pages, I don't have that complaint. Like this is bright and dark, and it doesn't look like one washed out picture. Whereas if we go 3 or 4 issues ago before the Inferno event, like there's pages that kind of all the art all blends together. Like so is it because this was an event and it got some tweaks to the colors? Is this the way it originally was when it was published? I don't know, but I'm not going to complain about it. I'm
yeah,
enjoying it.
yeah. Well, I mean, if it's the colors, then we need to blame the colorist, right? Um, but I have not been keeping track of who the colorist is on these things.
I think I do think though it's like an artistic choice though. But anyway.
Mhm.
Uh
Oh yeah, I have a no prize here.
all right, what is it? What you
I
got?
don't have a good name for this because this is not a silly one. This is a sincere one. So I'm calling this the Cover Enthusiast Award. Uh, I'm giving this to the covers for Uncanny X-Men issues 240 to 242. Um, I don't know how to really describe this, but these three issues, there's something striking about these covers, particularly when we put them together, like I have on the screen there, right? There's a central circle of figures with a blank, solid color background behind them. There's large figures above, diminutive figures below. They look like movie posters in a way, and that they're kind of coming at you from the center of the book. And I'm no art major, I lack the vocabulary to describe this, but these covers taken as a group, I think are just pleasing to the eye. There's something really well done about them.
Yeah, I would agree. It's also interesting that they didn't feel the need to squeeze uncanny on it, right? Like
Yeah,
it just, they needed that Inferno logo and that's going to take the place of uncanny. I like that you have the villains in the corner box at least for two of the three. Um so that's a cool touch too. It makes it that much more unique.
yeah, and I do find it weird though that there's clearly this design choice that I'm assuming Silvestri made when he did these three covers, but he didn't do it for the other Inferno covers because I think there's one Inferno before 240 and then one Inferno issue after 242. Um, or maybe there isn't. Maybe I'm making that up. Um, but yeah, it wasn't didn't do it for all of them, which
So
I thought was
there's
weird.
like a prelude in 239 because 243 is it says part 4.
Right.
So these would be 1, 2 and 3. Um
So part 4 is the one that it does not follow the trend. All right, there's cover.
right.
Yeah. So
So yeah, that bucks the trend. Although still has that little movie poster vibe where cuz you kind of have this like, hand with all the things kind of falling.
yeah.
Not completely off base there with that. I don't I will say like I wish that they didn't have like the numbering inside these issues because and I'll show you what I'm talking about, but here's the next issue we're going to talk about in a second. And they've all started with this like part the fourth, part the third. But like it's not really that because it's a crossover. So like part 3 would have been I don't know what number, but like part 2 was in X Factor, not in Uncanny. Part 3 would have been Uncanny Part 4 would have been an X Factor. You know, they've been jumping back and forth for a couple issues here.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Should we move on? The next one is actually X Factor number 38, Duet, and Al Milgram takes over on inks. Cool cover there too, right? With kind of the symmetry between Madeline and Jean, right?
Yeah, no, I like this. I the single coloring on it makes it a little hard to decipher some of it. I wish there was a like the background had a little bit of depth to it with some sort of other shading or something like that, only because Jean gets completely like washed out, whereas Madeline's a little bit more visible because she has you know, at
The
least
bear
some
skin.
two-tone. Yeah.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I mean striking cover. Not gonna complain.
Okay, so in this issue, Madeline Pryor, as the Goblin Queen, has taken Jean Grey captive and is able to use her own power to keep the X-Men and X-Factor at bay while she and Jean have a little chat. Well, it turns out that when the Phoenix first took over Jean, it left her in a state of suspended animation, then took her place with the X-Men. All right, so the Phoenix is with the X-Men. But when the Phoenix dies on the moon, it then sought to return to Jean's body, but Jean rejected her, and so the Phoenix instead found Madeline's body. So really, Madeline is the reincarnation of the Phoenix, kind of. And since Madeline had been manipulated by Mr. Sinister since the start, when Jean returned and Scott left Madeline, Madeline basically just wanted revenge and had slowly been manipulating the X-Men and using the Phoenix Force within her to achieve that end. But the demons, once they made contact at one point, they too got involved in all this. Well, the X teams eventually break through Madeline's telekinetic wall, but only after Madeline takes her own life, hoping to take Jean with her psychically to, kill Jean as well. But the bit of the Phoenix Force that was in Madeline sought refuge in Jean and ends up moving into Jean's body now. In the end, both teams agree that Mr. Sinister is the real originator of all of this, and they decide it was time to track him down and do something about him and his marauders. Oh, yeah, and Beast gives the angel his new name. He's now being called the Archangel. All right, Stoger, your thoughts on this?
I mean, like the explanations in this are kind of like, I guess, sure. Like I I wasn't like that big of a fan of this issue. Like I enjoy the boss battle nature. Like we got the demons out of the way, moving on to Madeline, and then we're gonna go to Sinister next. I'm digging that. I'm digging the confrontation between Jean and Madeline, but all this like convoluted pretzel twisting so that we can explain, you know, where she came from and the Phoenix. Like, can't she just be a clone? Like, we clone Jean. Like, what? Why do we got to involve the Phoenix in this? Like, you know, clone Jean. Whatever happened with Jean being put in suspended animation and the Phoenix being copied or whatever, we cloned her before all that happened. Good to go. Move on with your life. But no, we got to involve the Phoenix again, make it all confusing. Meanwhile, like the X-Men are just like fighting some bubble that just you know, I don't even understand the fight with the bubble. It's just a way for them to have a whole bunch of exposition as we go through this. The art in this issue is not my favorite. Like things get a little too exaggerated from time to time. I don't know what's going on with Wolverine's mask here, for instance. You know, if Madeline's distracted in the bubble, why does she still have this over influence on Wolverine and how he looks? And you know, and if he's not possessed anymore and he's regained control, why does he look like that? Does she just like transmute his mask and it's stuck like that until he goes and gets another one? Um, but you know, I look, I was excited and along for the ride for all of this stuff. So I'm not like I'm not hating on this, but the of all of these sort of action packs climax issues that we were going through here, this was not the one that grabbed me the most. What did you think?
Yeah, it's I'm right there with you. This is really just a lore dump. It's talking heads trying to explain what's happening in a convoluted story. It's not bad, but like you say, this is a pretzel twist of editorial interferences, which the writers are trying to make something sensible out of. Um, and Yeah, that's about it. Although there is one thing that I noticed. I wrote down that this was on page 87 in the X Factor Epic collection. Let's see where you are. I'm guessing it's a couple pages before that. I'm trying to find where Scott is. It's where Scott and Havoc are fighting one another, right? Cyclops and Havoc are not sure exactly how far into the book it is. It's maybe halfway through.
I'm a
Oh,
flipping.
yeah. I'm not paying the best attention.
Is it when they before he falls off the end of the battle?
it's uh it's right when Havoc is defeated. Well, maybe not. Gosh, I don't know. It looks like this. It's got Scott in the upper left corner there, about to shoot at Havoc. There you
Here we
go.
go.
That page right there. Um, this exchange between Cyclops and Havoc. Cyclops says in that first panel, your plasma blast won't hurt me, little brother, any more than my optic blast will hurt you. And then later on it says, genetic quirk, big brother. Other folks will we blow away, but we just make each other stronger. I knew I read this somewhere before that their two powers just make one another stronger. I could not remember where. And I started to think that that was something I just imagined as a child. But I felt so vindicated that I read it here. It's like, oh, I didn't make that up. That wasn't just my memory being silly. Um, I don't think I read this book when I was a child, so I don't know where I caught onto that from. If it was then mentioned in another book or
I
what
mean, they
have you.
fight
But
in Executioner or
Executioner song.
Extinction
Oh
Agenda.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Extinction Agenda. That's it.
Um, but yeah, I always thought that like they just didn't have an effect on each other. I didn't know that they like made them more powerful. So that
Yeah.
was news to me.
So I do remember before we started this podcast a couple years ago, I reread my old trade paperback of Executioner's Agenda, and I remember seeing the two of them fighting, and it says nothing about making themselves stronger, but they do both their shirts rip off and they get huge and beefy and so forth. And I thought, you know what, that's maybe just the
Hmm.
extremeness of 90s art, and that I interpret that as a kid of them making one another stronger. But nope, here it is. We've got it in this issue. So little Nick is happy that he's not making stuff up.
Hey, whatever we can do to keep Little Nick happy.
It's a hard thing to do. All right, let's go on to the next one. Um, God, I just realized there was a bunch of double entendres in that exchange we just had there that was completely
I,
unintentional.
I don't speak French. I don't know that,
Okay. Uncanny X-Men number 243, Ashes. Hilary Barta fills in as the guest inker here. So after defeating Madeline Pryor and the Phoenix Force, moving back into Jean Grey's body, the Phoenix Force brings Madeline's memories with it. But Mr. Sinister has also somehow infiltrated the memories or Jean's mind or whatever, and he's attacking these memories in Jean's mind. The X teams try to help, and ultimately they find themselves at Xavier's mansion, where Mr. Sinister is supposedly hiding himself. Well, the Marauders, including Polaris, attempt to stop the X teams, but the teams manage to catch Polaris instead. And just as they're on the verge of getting her to reveal where Mister Sinister is, Sinister is able to blow up the mansion and thus blow up all the X people in it. All right, your thoughts on this one, Stoger?
uh, I had a lot of fun in this issue. I like everything that's happening here with them getting back to the mansion and sort of fighting. I don't like the mind stuff as much. Like we just had a whole issue of like exposition, so it feels like more of that. I know it's different, but there's some amazing art in here. Like this sort of like death of Madeline shown here. You know, with her outfit all sprawled out. You know, looking at all
Like a
the
phoenix?
yeah, that's good. That's a good point. Yeah. Um, you know, them you know, like even though I don't like the mind stuff, like the Sinister in there looks cool. And him sort of invading and attacking there. I just wish that there was like less time spent in there. Like I'm not that interested in like, you know, stealing the memories or something like that. But the idea that he's able to infiltrate and attack them there is something I find interesting as we go through this. But like I don't need any more recap to this stuff because we just got a bunch of, that sort of how did we get here stuff in the last issue. But I'm happy when we get back to the school. I'm happy when they see it's sort of abandoned. There's some melancholy with that, with their, their home that is now been sort of like infiltrated and taken over. Um, and even here, I mean, I don't know if that's a marauder or what that is, you know, just lighting, but it kind of looks like eyes staring off into the in darkness at the bottom of this panel here. So there's some great art in here too as we go through this. Um, I always like them fighting the Marauders. I think Sabretooth gets beaten way too easily though. Psylocke being able to take him out, I guess, but they really haven't like elevated Sabretooth to what we know of him in the 90s as of yet. So he's he's not as cool as he will be as we go through this. I love Storm, just taking Polaris or Malice to the ground and, getting ready to say, I'm just going to kill you. I'm done with this. I've had enough and slamming her so well, drawn out there to show the real emotions behind. I'm not sure how I feel about like the lone X-Man just being a long shot. I'm not the biggest long shot fan. And to have him as the, the person here at the end,
I
yeah,
don't like it, but it makes sense
it
because of
does.
his
Yeah,
luck power.
I'm with you. So what
Yeah.
are your thoughts as I adjust my
Yeah.
chair?
No, it's all good. This issue is fine. It felt to me like we're just kind of stretching it out a little bit now so that we can make something out of the Mr. Sinister angle, so that his story too gets wrapped up with a nice little bow. Because I mean, it kind of feels like Inferno's done. So why are we still dealing with this guy? But that's just kind of my thought is okay. We introduced him. We got to wrap that up too.
I mean, I like the fact that he's the final boss. Like he set a lot of this into motion and all that. I just don't know that we need 2 issues of it.
Yeah.
So that's the pulling the taffy a little bit here. I mean, granted, like I hate to complain about it. Like the storyline's so good. It's so much fun to bring all these characters together. But if I was going to tighten it up, we didn't need as much exposition last issue, and I don't think we need 2 issues to fight Sinister. We can have one final battle, and
Yeah. Well, we need one last crossover, right? We need to get him in Uncanny and in X Factor.
that's true. That's
Right.
true.
All
Speaking of
right.
which,
So, yeah, speaking of X Factor number 39, Ashes to Ashes. As we saw there, Long Shot is the lone X Man still standing after the X Mansion gets blown up for what is this now? The fourth time that they've destroyed that building?
minimally,
Yeah. Um, So Longshot takes his shot at Mr. Sinister, and while he's not too effective, he's enough of a distraction for the rest of the X teams to wake up and start fighting back. We get a lot more exposition about how Sinister has been manipulating events in the background for years. In particular, he was responsible for taking Scott as a child and bringing him to his orphanage and also separating him from Alex, right? Making sure Alex got adopted and Scott didn't. As always, the X teams find a way to work together to distract and then take down Sinister to the point where Cyclops absolutely obliterates his body in probably one of the more gruesome panels I've seen in a Marvel comic. This was one of those ones where I thought, what the comics code means nothing anymore, right? Um, and I'm sure we'll highlight that in a moment. The teams then part their ways, and the X Men go back to Australia, and X Factor follows up from here, basically. Yeah, there it is. Just blowing him to smithereens with all the skeletons and stuff there. Skeletons, plural, like he has more than one kicking about in there.
it's Cyclops' visor is always interesting. I don't know if it's just this one artist, but like when we want it to be a single eye, it's a single eye. But when we want to show that he's really trying to use his powers, we're going to show 2 distinct eyeballs here. Um, Pretty sure his visor is still the single slit here.
Yeah.
Uh,
But
yeah,
technically, they're coming out of his two eyes, right?
yeah.
So I guess it depends on how you're looking at his face at the moment that the visor opens. I would
But I'm
assume, but
not. I don't know that I've ever seen, other than in here, an artist like distinctly show the two eyeballs, unless he was doing something where their like beams are kind of going off in different directions. But most of the time, it comes out as this little, you know, this like wide angle like wave or
could you imagine if he ever crossed his eyes as a child? He'd blow off his own nose. Sorry,
I
talking
mean, he
about his
must be. He's
eyes
got to
going in
be
different
immune,
directions.
right? Like, because
Yeah.
he's always. Isn't that like you're always looking at your nose, but your mind filters it out?
Well, maybe. And if he's immune to his brother's beams, then presumably he's immune to his own,
Yeah.
right?
So, I mean, talking about some of the art, though, I just while I'm on this page, I'm gonna have to point out, like, what is this?
He's adjusting his pantyhose
Like, what?
or
I mean,
havoc.
that, that's ridiculous. Uh, so, I I like that we get this sort of fun conclusion to this. I like that the X-Men all team up and fight Sinister. I feel like Sinister's so powerful and different, although they don't really show him doing some of the things I've seen him do later, like almost able to like melt down into nothing and like, have complete control over his body and stuff like that. So, but I still, when I read this, I'm like, well, he's not really dead. Like, it just kind of looks like he's dead, type of thing. But I don't know. I mean, maybe back then you would have thought that. But like again with the art, like what's going on here exactly? Like, what is she twisting to make him have that face? Um,
Well,
doesn't
she's
look like
twisting his
he's.
mouth, right?
I get. Is she? Yeah, I guess she's making him smile. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
It still looks a little, but
It does, and I think that's the point, right? That he's
yeah.
being forced to smile.
No, that's a good. Yeah. All right. Point taken. Point taken.
Sorry.
Um. No, it's okay. So yeah, I'm happy to get this conclusion. I think having Sinister as the major boss here. Do you think that Sinister was? I know he manipulated things and he got Scott and Alex into that orphanage and got Alex out of there. But they kind of alluded to there was like a another student that Scott didn't get along with, like, was that maybe Sinister too, or is that just, like, it was like weird that they talked about like one other kid when they visited the orphanage that he didn't get along with, and I got this like hint that like was Sinister at the orphanage at posing as a child.
Yeah, I don't know because they also said that that other student was named Nathan, right? Which is the name of Scott's son, right? And I did note that, and I thought that's weird, and I'm not sure where they're going there. There's there's a part of me, and just so you're aware, you're on Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah, I was looking
I
up
don't know
like,
if that was
and
intentional.
it wasn't, but a little behind the scenes here. I apparently I binged instead of Googled, but his name is Nathan too, Mr. Sinister.
So that's what I was thinking. Is his name is Nathan? So it was making me wonder: is it him, or is knowing what we know about Scott's child and all of the adventures he has in the future, is that him traveling through time? I don't know. I generally do not.
Well, I would say it's not, because while Scott and Jean end up raising Nathan as a child, that's in the future.
Yeah,
So when they go
and
on their
that's
honeymoon, they jump into the bodies of some other people
that's
and they
true,
end
and
up
that's fully
raising
in the
him.
future,
Yeah. So
right?
Nathan doesn't come back as a child. He doesn't come back till he's Cable. Although in the
Oh, you gave it
Krakoa
away.
era, he's a kid, but I mean, come on, like who doesn't know?
Yeah.
You know,
I remember reading that mini series back in the 90s when it came out, but I haven't read it since, so my memory is vague.
yeah, and they're gonna do that in X-Men '97 season 2. That's where they deposited Scott and Jean at the end of it.
I need to catch up on the original X-Men animated series so I can get
Just
into 97.
watch the X-Men '97, because like because everything is so much. There's not, like, you're not missing anything. Like, all you really need to know is that Professor X like is presumed dead, and the X-Men are on their own. And you can assume that certain things happen. They adapted some stories in the past and things like that, but it's basically like watching X-Men 97 is as if you just like picked up like not story wise, but like the vibe of like picking up like the X-Men adjectiveless X-Men from 1990. You just jumped in and started reading there because you're getting like the that type of team. You're getting like, yeah, there's a ton of history, but we're going to show you new stuff. And in that season, they adapted the the Genosha stuff. They adapted uh not the Phalanx, but the Operation Zero Tolerance. They adapted Magneto being a teacher at the school. Whole bunch of things. So
They started with the Genosha stuff in the first season of the original animated. Like, I think that was in the very first
yeah, I'm talking about
episode. Well, no, first episode was the
the
Sentinels.
Morrison X-Men Genosha stuff.
Oh, that. Okay, all
Yeah.
right, never mind then.
So
Um, as for my thoughts on this one, as with the last issue of X Factor, I felt like this one was still a lot of lore dumping and retconning to build up the character of Sinister and to try to explain away Scott's actions for leaving Madeline. But it did make me think of two things here. Firstly, when Marvel began the X Factor book, why did they even try to write Madeline out, right? Why did they remove her from the X Factor team? Wouldn't the dynamic of Scott being married to someone who looks just like Jean Grey, and then Jean Grey being there, and their past relationship being front and present, wouldn't that be excellent drama? Uh, that sounds like it could be, uh, great for the book. So why send Madeline and the child with the X-Men just to have Scott separated with X Factor? I don't get that. And the other thing I wondered when reading this is just what the heck are Mr. Sinister's powers anyway? He seems to be very manipulative, and that's fine. But then he's also shooting lasers or power beams or whatever as he's fighting. So, what exactly can he do? I don't think that's been defined yet, or at least not in the issues that we've read. Maybe that's been talked about earlier in the X Factor books, but I don't know because I haven't read those earlier ones.
yeah, I
So,
mean, the knowledge that I have now, the answer is he's collected genetic material from mutants for a long, long time, and so he's gotten all their powers. So,
okay, so I didn't know that. I didn't
but
know
that's
that's what
not
Sinister
in these
did.
pages. That's knowledge that I got, from future stuff, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then as far as the Gene stuff and Madeline, yeah, I agree. I think that would be interesting, drama to lay out there. My only explanation for it would be an aversion to things like divorce at that time. In
Yeah.
that, like, the eventual thing would be Scott betraying his wife, and for it to be that obvious, because then you have no drama. Like, if he's never going to betray his wife, then what? Like, he's just what? He's just tempted. Like, But the eventual thing would be he would have to betray his wife or leave her, leave
Or
Madeline for
Madeline
Jean.
would die, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I guess. Yeah,
which is what happens anyway.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
um, yeah, it just I don't know. It seemed like again, I enjoyed this event, but it seemed like a lot of it was just trying to clean up that mess of reintroducing Jean Grey is
Yeah,
what much of it felt like. Anyway, should we move on?
yeah. Let's do it. We
We
are.
have a mini story,
Hmm?
and that is an X Factor Annual number 4. So the oversized hardcover just includes the C story, which is called Inferno Aftermath. This is by Mark Gruenwald, pencils by Jim Fern, inks by Joe Rubenstein. And just to give some background on our creators, we've talked about Gruenwald before, so I don't really need to talk about him much other than, he's the continuity king at Marvel. And so to have an epilogue for one of these big cross universe events, it kind of makes sense that he'd try to pull things together. Although I don't know if that's really what this story does. Jim Fern, he started at Marvel in 1983 as an inker on various Spider-Man titles, and it's in the annuals this year that he starts penciling some stories. Um, one of the stories he will pencil will be an X-Men Annual number 13, which will be the second appearance of Jubilee. But we'll get to that in a moment. All right, so as I said, this story doesn't really do a whole lot to wrap things up. with this event. It features two Blues Brothers knockoffs asking people around the city what happened the night of the Inferno, and eventually they talk to X Factor, and X Factor decides as a team that people's psyches are too fragile to accept what really happened, right? That demons had invaded the Earth, and so they concoct a story that AIM had used some hypno ray gun against New York, and that's really about it.
I mean,
Your thoughts?
I think this is the actual Blues Brothers, not a knockoff. This
Well, they don't
looks.
have the same. I granted, I've never seen the Blues Brothers, but I looked them up. They don't have the same names.
I thought they did. What are
Like
they?
on the first page there, although I think they might have slipped later in the story, and one was called something else that might have been an actual Blues Brothers name. Oh, I've lost it in my book.
Yeah, I'm trying to see where they might introduce themselves.
I think it's on that very first page. Because we've got the narrative. The final paragraph on that first page. That's where I come in. My name's Jacob Farber, and this is my associate Elwood McNulty. And again, I'm no Blues Brothers expert, but I looked them up and I did not see those names.
I think
There's some
it's
that are similar.
Elwood. I think it's Elwood and Jacob are there. The
Okay,
last names might be different. Just
and maybe
to
that's
switch it up, but it's Elwood and something. I'm pretty sure. But I'm not the biggest Blues Brothers expert. I remember my dad enjoyed. It's one of those movies that I enjoy because he enjoyed. So yeah, I mean, I think this is fine. It's a backup story in an annual. It's not like, it's a fun little thing. It's interesting. It ties together all of the different uh crossovers a little bit. So, having not read the Avengers, like this page, for instance, it ties into all of the Avengers too, because
yeah.
you get Gilgamesh joining the Avengers during Inferno, and you also get what's his name? Uh who's the Avengers
Uh,
butler?
oh, it starts with a J.
Uh,
Right,
yeah, Jarvis. I'm just
Jarvis. That's it.
blanking on it here.
Yeah.
You get Jarvis, and there's an issue with Jarvis is like defending people in the streets and stuff like that. So
And we'll read the epic collection that covers that later this month.
yeah. So um, yeah. I mean, I'm fine with this. I think it's a nice thing to sort of squeeze in here, and in similar in on brand for Grunwald. The way that they get out of this is through a reference to something that happened before.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought this was fine. It didn't really do anything to add to the Inferno story, but at least it wasn't boring.
Yeah,
I thought it was interesting. But yeah, it doesn't really do much.
yeah.
All right, shall we wrap it up with the last issue of Inferno, but then we still have some X-Men issues after this.
Let's do it.
All right, so this is X Factor number 40, Dust to Dust. Rob Liefeld fills in on pencils in this issue. Now, I couldn't quite figure out why Walt Simonson left the X Factor book at this point. As best as I could tell, he just moved on to work on the Fantastic Four. But Liefeld, of course, is going to be one of those hotshot artists of the 90s who would go on to found Image Comics. In fact, Liefeld is actually one of the main instigators for the founding of Image. And this is one of Liefeld's earliest works at Marvel. In fact, I'm not positive about this, but I think it's the second book that he did for Marvel after an Amazing Spider Man annual. He had done a few issues at DC, and in the year after this book came out, he would become the regular penciler for the New Mutants, which we all know then leads into a new title called X Force, and that really skyrocketed his popularity at Marvel. Okay, as for the story, after Madeline's funeral, X Factor planned to return to fly to Washington to hand over the mutant babies used in the Inferno ritual so that the federal government can locate their parents. Well, along the way, they're ambushed by Nanny and the Orphan Maker, who likewise have Jean Grey's niece and nephew aboard. Well, after defeating Nanny, they learned that Nanny's goal was to simply protect these mutant children, particularly from their powers once they manifest, but she does this in a rather inappropriate way by stealing the children from their parents and sometimes killing their parents. but she seems to have altruistic motives, just follows up with it poorly. All right, your thoughts on this one, Sojer?
I'm not the biggest Liefeld hater. Like, I don't like his. I'm not. I don't seek out his art. I criticize it certainly, but I also enjoy his ability to break some of the rules, and by breaking those rules, like have some interesting, especially like layouts and stuff like that. So, there's not a ton of that in this issue because it's still kind of early work. You get a ton of hair on this screen. I just stopped here for between Beast and the mane that he's drawing on Jean, and the full head of hair on these babies. There's a lot of hair happening on this screen. But like even here, like you're getting these three tall panels on a page. Like this is not a normal occurrence that you see throughout comics at this time, and that extends onto the next couple pages. I'm not story wise. I just don't like Nanny and Orphan Maker, and this pseudo protection thing doesn't really resonate with me either. They're confusing. They don't make a ton of sense to me. Um, and I could just do without them. I just want to move on from them. But I like the idea of this sort of like rescue of unhinging and rescuing her niece and nephew. Although we never knew that she had a almost fully grown niece and nephew before, right? Like we knew she had a sister and kids, but I mean, I can't remember us meeting these kids outside of what we've gone through in this book, right? Um,
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, they have been mentioned before, and we have met her sister before, but yeah, I don't remember being introduced to the kids before what we've seen in this, what we've read this time around.
yeah. So there's not a ton of like different panel work in here, but like there's a little playing around with it. He definitely got a lot of sort of like wide hair, look that he's kind of going through here. But otherwise, I'm not hating on Lifefield's art in here. And by the way, like I will make fun of him just like everybody else for that Captain America pose. However, have you ever seen the Arnold Schwarzenegger image that it's kind of based off of?
No, I'm not sure. I no, I've not.
Well, while you're giving your thoughts, I'll see if I can bring it.
Okay. I'm kind of with you, Stoger. Story wise, it's a fine wrap up. It ties up the loose end of Nanny and the Orphan Maker, kind of, but it's not all that important. And Liefeld is the thing to talk about here, right? He is a big shot artist in the '90s, founder of Image, and this is one of his early works. I know Liefeld gets criticized a lot for not being able to draw feet, but I think he's fine in this one. It's one of his earlier works. Maybe he's trying a bit more. Something that I've begun to notice, and I don't think I noticed this in the '90s when like everyone else, I was eating up his stuff, and I've only kind of come back to it later and realized maybe this is not actually all that great. But he doesn't really draw eyes. He avoids drawing eyes.
Hmm.
Um, it, like I could tell immediately when I looked at the cover that this was Liefeld because his or oh maybe it wasn't this one, it was a different one where he had a cover. um well, now I'm questioning that because I've seen him again, like ah
Well,
it
I
was
mean, right here,
it was something
everybody's kind
else
of
I was reading.
squinting.
But yeah, like he does that a lot where he just kind of shades in the eyes. And Al Milgram's inks, I think, are doing a lot of heavy lifting in this one, but in some of the other ones where his really sketchy style just shows through and it doesn't have heavier inks on it, you can just kind of see it's a bunch of lines around the brow and you don't really see the eyes all that much. So I don't know what that is. Now, obviously, he doesn't do it everywhere if the eyes are needed for expression. I'm thinking of that page towards the end where Archangel is in the middle and his eyes are really big and wide. Um, yeah, that one right there. So it's not like he always avoids it, but you look on the previous page and there you go. It's just sketchy eyes again. So thinking the Beast in particular at the top. Um, so yeah, I don't know what that's all about, but um, you know, it it is not the worst thing in the world. His art is not. It is innovative for the time, as you say. And I think it's only in retrospect we can look at this and be like, "Ooh, there's maybe not all that."
Yeah.
what were we thinking at the time?
So
Oh
here's
yeah,
the
look at that.
infamous Captain America life field from Heroes Reborn. And, I hated this at the time. I made fun of it. However, when you put it in the context of the Schwarzenegger picture, which is an actual picture, it doesn't look as off. I mean, it's still terrible, but, it's at least like semi realistic.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, now Stoger, I do not have the physical volume of Inferno oversized hardcover. Is there any bonus material in this that we should be aware of?
All right. So what do we got here? So we get some like promotional pictures, house ads
Okay.
for Exterminators and for Inferno crossover itself. Pretty good stuff there. Then there are some, I guess these were at the bottom of pages or something along those lines. These sort of house ads for Inferno. You get the Madeline and Jean and Scott, and you get the 3 versions of Ileana and Sinister and Sim and what's it? Nastier. There's a sketch page, which you probably can't see at all on the camera, and that is Simonson's sketch page. Get the covers from some of the other reprints, and that was by Rick Leonardi, as well as print that used the Mark Silvestri cover for. And that's about it. Yeah, just some other covers. So not a ton of stuff, because really the bonus material is that you know, you would the Blues Brothers thing, I guess.
Yeah.
I would assume the
Sure.
Omni has
All
more
right. Well,
stuff, but
let me give. Yeah. Well, the Omni collects all the other side issues throughout the Marvel universe, right? All the Spider-Man ones and Avengers, right?
yeah.
That is a flaw in the. It's not a flaw. It's just what's missing the oversized hardcover, but that's okay for our purposes. Um, as for my thoughts on the volume as a whole, this is a very good volume, but it does have some flaws. The Exterminator miniseries seems pointless and only adds elements to the story that are superfluous, such as Nastir using a computer to cast his spell. Likewise, the New Mutants are a weak point in the event, but a high point for the art. And it makes sense that we can't have a story involving Limbo unless Ileana is there. And of course, I've waxed poetic enough about Brett Blevins' art and what a good fit it is for this story, so I don't need to continue on that. But the really impressive thing about this story, I think, is how long running subplots in all 3 X-Men books are finally getting resolved all at once here, right? Ileana becoming the Dark Child is resolved. Heck, even her being aged 7 years in limbo, that gets resolved. For X Factor, the Cameron Hodge story and the problem of Cyclops leaving his wife. For the X-Men, the Marauders and Mr. Sinister, and the disappearance of Madeline's child, and then, of course, Madeline herself. But at the same time, some of these stories would not have been a problem to be resolved had it not been for some editorial interference by bringing back Jean Grey. That is really the catalyst for the Inferno, right? And even though this story was meant to fix Scott Summers' character by making him look like, or not look like a bad guy for running out on his wife, I don't think it succeeds in doing that. That is still a problem that Scott has to live with. And then we have to add on to that Havoc has fallen in love with Madeline and has aided her in trying to take over New York and kill her own child. And now we've ruined the reputation of another Summers brother. So I think there's a flaw in that as well. Having said all that, I am going to give this volume an 8.0. Um, this is really good, but I do think there's some flaws that detract from it.
All right. No, that's fair. I'm a little higher on this. And I think because of all the conclusions of all these storylines, because this is a crossover that I am hard pressed at this point in time to point to a crossover that's as well constructed, that's as well architected um, where we're able to look at different sides of what's going on at the same time in different books, have distinct perspectives on what's happening, right? The New Mutants are very clearly focused on Sim and Nastier, but more so the Sim side of things. Nastier is more in the Exterminators book, and trying to get this portal open. Those two are one upping each other when trying to get out of it, get this sort of permanent home of Inferno opened up. You get the all of the fat of this storyline is missing from these books, with the exception of the complaints that we've already talked about, right? So while X-Men and Avengers are all fighting demons, it's not in this book distracting things. I actually think that this might be better with not having it. Like, this is almost a book that I would almost prefer as having a storyline where you'd have the main story and the companion omnibus or something like that, rather than mixing it all up together. Because I feel like this is the core of the story. And while yes, I don't think that Exterminators is that strong overall, I think the payoffs that happen in this book and how well architected it is, I'm hard pressed to point to a crossover that is just as good, that does the things this well. I mean, if I think about upcoming X-Men crossovers, we'll talk about Extinction Agenda and Executioner Song. And it'll really come down to these three. And then your next storyline is I guess Fatal Attraction. And that is less of a interwoven story and more of almost a theme that of what's happening at a given point in time, with the kind of return of Magneto at that point in time. And then there's Age of Apocalypse, which gets they're hitting the reset button on everything. So it's almost like they have like the cheat code for how to do a crossover well. This you had to put work in. This you had to get storylines to merge and to meet. And for me, I think this pays it off. This brings me back to really enjoying the X-Men, which frankly, other than the Brood and the Genosha stuff, I was getting a little bored with some of this stuff. So I'm glad that we're mixing things up again and we're getting everybody.
Yeah. It is impressive how these long running narratives all get woven together in this one event. That is really great.
Mhm.
All right, so I guess that means together we give this an 8.5, correct?
Yep, I'm good with that.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. But we're not done yet. We've got 5 more Uncanny X-Men books that we need to cover that are not collected in one of our big collected editions. So we're gonna continue on. You ready, Stoger? All right. So, Uncanny X-Men number 244. This is Ladies' Night. Rogue smashes up her bedroom, frustrated by the redecorating that Carol Danvers did when she had taken over Rogue's body, and the tantrum gets so bad that Danvers actually takes over Rogue's body again. To cool things down, Dazzler suggests the girls have a trip to the mall, and so Gateway gives them access to the Hollywood Mall. There, a young homeless mutant girl named Jubilee has caught the attention of the mall cops, who decide to call on M Squad. M Squad are exterminator wannabes who promise to hunt down mutants for the benefit of humankind. I guess they're X Factor wannabes because exterminators were the actual mutant version or whatever that mess was that they were trying to do in X Factor.
Well, then weren't they? I mean, I have to do a full X Factor read through, but wasn't there public persona exterminators in the beginning or something weird like that? And that's where they got the name from, like the kids, or am I misinterpreting?
I thought it was X Factor was the public persona that were the mutant humpers. Oh God, the mutant hunters. We're
We're not
not
reading
that blue.
Krakoa yet. I mean,
Mutant selves as they went and saved mutants. I thought that's how it was, but I might have that mixed up.
Okay.
All right. So anyway, Squad M, M Squad, whatever they are, pretend to be mutant hunters. They attack Jubilee. Our ex-ladies intervene though to save the young girl. After which they depart back through a gateway to Australia, unaware that Jubilee also slips through the gate. All right, Stojr, your thoughts on this one?
I mean, the M Squad is stupid. They're this like mashup of like Ghostbusters and, as you said, the X Terminators, X Factor kind of wannabes. But so this is kind of like a throwaway issue. It's just a look. We just had a huge event. We're gonna chill and spend some time with the female characters, and I think the next issue we're gonna have just all the male characters. So it's a little, for the most part. So have a little bit of girls' night out, guys' night out stuff. So I can appreciate that. I like the introduction of Jubilee. As somebody who grew up in the 80s and 90s, having this in a mall just kind of feels nostalgic for me. I don't think this issue would hit for somebody nowadays when all malls are pretty much dead. But then again, if you were a big fan of the X-Men animated series, like Jubilee was your first episode and she was in a mall and yeah, it wasn't the M squad, but it was the Sentinels that came and attacked them. I also like that some of their hairstyles are getting a little tamed as we go through this. Some of those crazy '80s hairstyles that they had when they were down under. But you see, did you say it's Carol in this issue? I forget now. With a
Yeah,
personality.
it's Carol who's taking over Rogue at the
Yeah,
moment.
quick comment with that too. Like they're treating Carol like she's a real person, but it's not actually Carol. It's like a copy of her personality. Like Carol's in space.
Yeah, yeah,
So like it's kind of weird. Like I get it, but like it's not actually Carol. It's like a ghost image or something like that of her. But they kind of treat it like she's a real person. Like they try and reason with her, and maybe not in this issue so much, but in some of the other things that we'll talk about. Just a little weird because it's and how many of these like body swap, which we'll get into in a future review, or two minds in one body, like Malice and Polaris and this, or like it seems to be like a thing that we're going to keep using over and over again here. It's getting a little old for me. I don't know if you have a similar feeling.
I haven't really thought about it too much, but I mean, yeah, it's not actually Carol Danvers in there, but an imprint of her psyche. Well, if it is a copy or imprint of her psyche, does she know it's not her? I mean, she wouldn't know, right? As far as she is aware, that's her.
I
She's just in
guess,
Rogue's
yeah.
body. That's the way I took it anyway.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes sense. But everybody else in theory knows that it's not them. So, I mean, I like this as the introduction to Jubilee. Like, you get girls in a mall hanging out, buying outfits. They get some little silly, villain that they have to deal with. And we get our introduction to Jubilee. So for me, I kind of enjoyed this issue. What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was really fun. Again, it's just what we need after a big event like the Inferno, right? We need a little downtime, and this is a silly story that lightens the mood. And yeah, not only that, we get Jubilee as he's an important character who becomes a regular part of the X-Men. I do have one weird question about this though.
Okay.
Can you find a picture of Dazzler for me?
Well, she's on this page in theory.
Is she?
That's her
Let's
bottom left.
let's get a closer up of her face or something on a previous page.
Oh, on a previous page. All right, give
Yeah. Okay, right there, right there. Go back.
this page here
Yeah, that one in the upper left corner there. Right.
down here.
Yeah. What has happened to Dazzler's skin tone in this issue? Is this a leftover from Inferno? Did she spend too much time sunbathing in the outback? A
I mean,
tanning booth accident?
it
Is this
is
a woke
sunny in
retcon?
Australia, but yeah, no, it's a great point. I mean, because she's a pretty white girl to my recollection here, right? And I appreciate
Yeah.
them having accurate skin tones, but like she's not this skin tone. So,
Yeah,
um,
it's just this one issue where her skin tone is so dark, and I don't know if that's like the reproduction that we have on Marvel Unlimited or if that's how it was in the actual comic. In the very next comic, maybe not the very next one because we get the boys issue, but in a following one, she's back to being pale white again. So it's just like what happened there?
yeah,
I don't know why that decision was made. So anyway, my only weird little quibble there. It was fun. Yeah, the M Squad, they're dumb. We actually saw them before. They were in the Inferno wrap up that was in X Factor Annual number 4. The Blues Brothers was
oh,
were
they were in there.
questioning them.
Yeah,
Yeah, just briefly.
yeah. I mean,
But
I don't mind these like kind of dumb villains. There's like I don't know how dumb they are. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. I forget if they get serious, but there's these like granny villains in the Krakoa era of X-Men that like they're like all like really old, but they like somehow like I think they were like old scientists, so there's like some angle with like plants and using the Krakoa plants against the X-Men or something weird like that. I forget what.
hmm,
But like this stick was like that they're all like 80, like so similar like kind of just weird horny vibe with this stuff. But I don't think this M Squad shows up much more going forward. Maybe they do. I just don't remember.
yeah, I have no idea. I have a feeling they're not a villain that will stay, but they're comedic relief for this issue.
Yeah,
All right, should we head on to Uncanny X-Men number 245?
let's do it.
All right, this one is called Men with an exclamation mark. They're not raining, they're just there. All right, this is written by Chris Claremont, of course, with pencils by Rob Liefeld and inks by Dan Green. And on, I think I was thinking of this issue when we had our discussion about Liefeld earlier. I could tell looking at the cover that this was Liefeld's art. In fact, before I even looked at the credits, I stopped and I said, "Oh, there's no eyes on Wolverine, right? This must be Liefeld." Um, anyway, not to be outdone by the ladies' last issue, the X Gents decide to have a night out at a bar in Sydney. I like that there's a little joke of Wolverine and Colossus. You know, Colossus complained the last time we did this, he had to fight the Juggernaut. That's so good. We're remembering our continuity. While they're out, an alien invasion happens, but everyone in Australia is either too drunk or too nonchalant to worry about it. And thus, through a series of mysterious hijinks, our X dudes fight off the alien invasion. All right, your thoughts on this one, Stoger?
I mean, I feel like this is just a huge parody of the DC invasion event. I mean, that's what these
Is it?
yeah, so there's a and I think it's happening at the same time, right? Like we're at like 89, 90, right? Like this is 1990, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Or just about. There's a is it called Invasion? I think it is called Invasion. And the aliens look almost identical to what you saw on that first page. From what I remember. So I feel like this was just kind of like a jokey parody. I'll Google it real.
You see, my knowledge of DC is so poor that I had no idea. I mean, just looking at this, I thought, okay, it's fine. Not as fun as the last issue, but there's some jokes in here. Um, and at the very least, you could tell Claremont was poking fun at the destruction wrought by bringing Jean Grey back because he has the aliens create the gene bomb, right? That looks
Yeah.
just like her. But I had no idea that this could be parodying something specifically.
I need to stop going to the comic view or stop going to my Google search if and update Edge to stop using Bing because it's embarrassing that I keep binging things. But yeah, this is the alien in that alien invasion, just like a yellow version of what you're looking at here. Um, see that on the screen.
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So
Well,
versus
there we go.
that, you know. So I don't know, kind of happening at the same time. Alien invasion, very close to each other. Um, you know, I mean, I don't I don't hate this issue. I just don't care about it. There's nothing in here that's like that interesting. Like it's interesting to watch Liefeld go all out and draw a full issue. I feel like we got a touch of that in the X Factor issue, but I think this really feels more like him. Like this is a Liefeld page layout here where you get that tall panel and the three ones and then you get these things that kind of break the panels like with um this where you get a character kind of coming out of a panel and things like that, right? Like, and that's something I appreciate about his work. I'm not the biggest fan
Mm-hmm.
of his work. I didn't follow him to Image and look at anything that he collected there, but but there's just a lot of like teasers. I mean, we get the Daily Planet here. I mean, that's obviously
Right.
the Chief. I guess this is supposed to be Jimmy Olsen there. That's Clark. I mean, at this time, Clark was on TV too. So they, I'm pretty sure I still have to do my full Superman read through, but there was a point in time where he didn't work at the newspaper. They were like they had like a newspaper show or something like that, some sort of thing on TV. So I think this kind of plays into that same time period. But again, like panels like this, I mean this is different, right, than what you were getting at that time. And love it or hate it, you gotta at least appreciate it's different. Growing up as He-Man, like this looks like one of those He-Man guys down here in the bottom right. I think it was like Man of Arms or the guy that's head spun around and had different faces or something like that. I forget his exact name. Um, yeah, so I mean, I just appreciate this being silly, fun. Like to me, I mean, I kind of wish it was somewhere else, like as opposed to an X-Men issue, like maybe in an annual or a backup story or something like that, because it's so silly that I almost feel like it's not in continuity. But there's really nothing here that happens that would affect anything in any way, shape, or form. What did you think?
I kind of gave my thoughts that I had already when you were trying to search for DC Alien Invasion, so I
Gotcha.
don't have anything more to add. Um, Although we were challenged on the double page spread at the beginning to try to name all of the aliens. So, Stoger, I thought we should give this a try and see how well we
So do you
can.
want to? Should I do? Is that coming through okay, or do you want me to
I'm
zoom in on
afraid
the?
I lost you.
Still there?
Yep, I'm here or I'm back. I don't know what happened.
I can hear you. Yeah, you're fine. You didn't blip out for me. You blipped out for a second earlier, but you came right back, but not in the last 2 or 3 minutes. So that was just on.
Okay.
Um, is this can you see this okay, or should I do the double page spread thing over
So,
here?
I was thinking about that. If you do pull up the double page spread in the comic viewer, you can zoom in, right?
Yep.
And because of the way we record this, I can't see your screen all that well anyway, but I pulled up Marvel Unlimited myself. So
Okay.
I can
So
follow
I got it
along.
zoomed in here. So let's start. We'll start with are we doing this corner, or is there anybody up here or worth whoops?
I don't know if I recognize anyone in that upper left corner, to be perfectly honest. So uh, on
Uh, yeah, I would
if we
agree. If there's anything in here, it's I think it's just random stuff. It.
I say we stay in that top panel at least, though, because when you get to the right side of the page, you definitely start seeing some Star Wars characters, right? Chewbacca and Darth Vader are back
Well, we're gonna
there.
see what the comic viewer takes us because the zoom and drag
Oh,
was going to the next page. So let's see. All right, so let's stop here for a second. Got anybody in this panel?
let's see. I feel like I should. Oops. I feel like I should know that kind of banana looking dude. He looks familiar, but I have no idea.
Yeah, it kind of looks a little bit like Earthworm Jim or something like that, but that was like a Sega
I
game.
think it's too early for Earthworm
Is
Jim,
it?
isn't it?
Yeah, maybe. It was in the 90s and this is late 80s. I these might be I'm blanking on their
Oh,
names now. The on Star Wars. Um
yeah, the guys who sell the droids
yeah,
on Skywalker's planet. Yeah, I don't
yeah,
remember
on
their names.
Tatooine. All right, so here we got a bunch of Star Wars.
Yeah.
We got
Um,
Darth Vader, Baka.
is that the guy with the green head, the long green head? Is that maybe the Impossible Man?
Here?
Long yellow head?
Maybe. Yeah.
And then the
Um
stout orange guy, maybe Quasimodo? I don't know. I don't think he's a space guy, but
yeah, not really space guy, but could be. Like I don't have Quasimodo. I know he fought the Hulk. This is Jor-El and his wife and Laurel,
oh,
Superman's
really? The
parents.
super pale guy?
Yeah, yeah, because it's like this kind of look and this like thing. I'm pretty sure that that's supposed to be Superman's parents
Ah,
because that was the kind of Kryptonian like vibe that you got back then. Not so much his face, but like the outfit that I'm looking at. So I could be wrong, but
okay. I don't know
um
who the big hulking guy behind them is, but you've got a xenomorph next to that.
yeah. Um
Oops.
Pretty up here behind this guy's nose. Yeah, there's the
Um,
xenomorph. Yep, got that.
Yeah, behind the
Yeah, it
nose, I
looks
don't
like it
really.
could be something.
Who's this? The guy in the front, or?
This guy
Oh,
in the background looks like he's almost got like a two-toned outfit on, although it's all colored the same.
is that maybe the Imperial Guard of the Shi'ar?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it
Then you
is.
can't everybody here. Do I know you? All right. So there's the so we got ourselves ET.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Maybe somebody that's supposed to be like Thanos or something. He's got the kind of curly chin, but maybe not. That
Oh, is
might be
that
a
maybe a
stretch.
Klingon? No.
Nah, I was thinking he'd have like the thing on the forehead a little bit.
Yeah.
What about this guy?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what that guy is, unless he's one of those the rock creatures from Saturn in the first appearance of Thor. But that's assuming it's a Marvel character. Is it the big profile? Is that Darkseid, perhaps? I don't know.
Maybe. It's actually harder than I thought.
Yeah, maybe in the second panel where everyone is yellow, that we might have a Darkseid in there. But I bet we'll be able to name a few in that one too.
Screwed up on me.
Ooh, you yeah,
Yeah,
back to the last
I,
issue.
yeah, I zoomed out and it went to the last issue. I don't know what this thing does. They need to like put out a PC app because the web browser.
They need to do a lot of things to fix Marvel Unlimited, honestly. It's a mess.
I mean, there's a part of me that wonders if it's by design, because if they invest too much in it, are they gonna piss off comic shops, or do you feel like it's gonna chew into their sales? Um, I don't know.
I don't know, maybe.
DC just
Well, anyway, there's
started adding the DC finest to their Infinite. They're unlimited, called Infinite, and you can get like 5 or 10 volumes of DC finest.
yeah, I saw that they had added those recently. Um, all right, should we go ahead and give up? I mean, there's a lot more that we could do in that other panel. You've got Alf, you've got Yoda, um, Xenomorph again, more Star Wars characters, but
Yeah, so
I think
so the
we've
yellow panel, Xenomorph, you got Boba Fett, you got ET. I guess that might be Star-Lord. You got the guy from uh what's his name's pal Jabba's palace. You got Jabba himself. You have Yoda, Alf, you got Hawkman in the background there. Um I don't know who that frog person is, but some frog person. That might
I'm gonna
be
call
that
it
little
Kermit.
the yellow is that a single eye too? Might be like the creature
Oh,
that was
is
in the Sarlacc pit, maybe?
the garbage disposal
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
Yeah. I wonder if the frog thing is a Slippy Toad from Star Fox, although this is too early. It comes out later.
All right. Well, that's something.
Yeah. This next issue is X-Men Annual number 13. Since it's an annual, we'll go through A story, B story, etc. The A story is Double Cross, or maybe it's Double X Cross. It has an X in the middle of the title. Terry Austin is writing this one with Mike Vosberg on art. Now, this is the only credit Terry Austin has for writing an X-Men comic, at least that I could find. Of course, he was the inker for John Byrne during Byrne's run with Claremont on X-Men. Aside from this, Austin has scripted a number of Cloak and Dagger comics, a few Power Pack comics, and at least one What If issue for Marvel. There might be more that I've missed, but as far as I could do in my quick research, this is it. As for Vosberg, he did some work for Marvel and DC here and there. It would be shortly after this issue that he would mostly leave comic books and do art and storyboards for the Tales of the Crypt TV show. All right, so as for the story itself, Dazzler is trying to take Wolverine out for a test drive, but it turns out she's actually Diamondback. The two ladies had their bodies switched by a guy named Mr. Jip. Mr. Jip is a Cloak and Dagger villain. As the team decide to confront Mr. Jip, they are transported to three different parts of the world to locate magical objects for Mr. Jip, and the Serpent Society is also looking for these things. Well, the X Men manage to locate the items first, and they return to Mr. Jib with them. But once Jib reswaps Diamondback and Dazzler's bodies, Diamondback absconds with the magical goods with the aid of Sidewinder, the teleporter for the Serpent Society. I think this has something to do with rebuilding the certain Serpent Crown, which is something that has to do with all the Atlantis stuff that this is a crossover for. Anyway, Sojer, your thoughts here.
I couldn't stand this. This was I don't like the art. It's overly simplistic. The only thing I'll say about the overly simplistic art is just that it's not like outright terrible. It's just kind of like plain, and there's like very little detail in the backgrounds and things like that, but it's not like, I look at an image and it doesn't look like Wolverine or something like that. Like I can't tell what it is. But don't like the art, don't like the story. I was already complaining about, multiple minds in people's bodies and body swaps and with the last issue, and here we are with uh Dazzler and Diamondback, who from an X-Men perspective, like we have no clue is. You're being forced to either pick up the Captain America comics or read this crossover. um, I don't know who Mr. Jip is. Like, I never bought Cloak and Dagger books, never heard of this guy. I mean, everything about this is just and and annoying to a certain extent. I can't think of anything in this issue that I really this part A storyline that I really as I went through this. The only thing that was somewhat interesting is that we did the Captain America comic read through, and to see the Serpent Society here in action was, there's some familiarity because we had done a review with some of these characters before. But beyond that, I mean, like, what is this nonsense? They're like, just going to find a rock, dude, and then he like switches their bodies back. Like, I don't get it. What did you think?
I thought this had some fun moments. It is not the best of comics by any means, but the intro with Diamondback as Dazzler trying to bed Wolverine, I thought was funny. Long shot looking for a random rock, and of course he's the one who finds it. That was funny. Um, Mr. Jip is a Terry Austin creation as a villain for Cloak and Dagger, so I suspect that the reason why he's in here is really just to get some exposure for Terry's work in Cloak and Dagger. But that's kind of a complaint with annuals anyway, right? That they're not really telling the greatest of stories. They end up being tryouts and cash grabs. So yeah, it's what it is. Should we move on to the B story?
Yes, please, because I couldn't stand this at all.
All right. Well, the B story, here I'll wait for you to. So okay, that's it right there. All right,
Yep.
the B story is called Jubilation Day. This is written by Sally Pashkow, pencils by Jim Firm, and inks by Joseph Rubinstein. Now, I will pause and say Sally Pashkow is technically credited as the writer, but this is actually a pen name. This is a pseudonym that Chris Claremont used as a joke. And all three of the creators are on record confirming this at some comic convention, although the source I found didn't give any more details as to what convention that was. But this is actually Claremont writing this.
But what's
Um,
the purpose of the pen name then? He just
Unknown.
wanted to be like Stephen King or something, or like, I don't.
I suspect it's the tone in which this is written, that's some kind of personal joke for him, but I don't know.
Okay.
Another random fact about this story: this is the only comic in which Gateway speaks,
Does
unless
he
that
speak
has
in
changed in
does he
recent
speak
years.
later in Generation X though? I don't remember.
Maybe he does later on, but at least in this phase, this is the only time he says a word.
Okay.
Um, as I said, I don't know why Claremont used a pseudonym for writing this one, but I'm guessing the joke has to do with the extensive use of the Valley Girl slang that he uses here. Jubilee talks excessively like a stereotypical Valley Girl from the late 80s, and so I think that's what it is, but I don't know. In this, we get the story of what happened after Jubilee followed the X-Ladies through Gateway's portal. Essentially, she snuck into one of the hidden tunnels that the X-Men had been using, and she has been stealing food and other items to survive in secret. At one point, one of the Reaver's cybernetic dogs confronts her, and so Jubilee is forced to use her powers in order to survive. And that's pretty much it. Your thoughts, Dozier?
I don't mind this because it's a backup story in an annual, right? So this is just like a fun little like in between thing. There's nothing about this that's like terribly great, like but you get the X-Men playing baseball, get Jubilee kind of playing with their stuff. I thought they gave all this money back, by the way. I don't know where this Scrooge McDuck pile of cash is coming from, but I thought we had a whole Christmas issue where they returned all this stuff, but maybe they kept some for.
Maybe this is a pile that they didn't find. I don't
Yeah,
know.
maybe. I mean, there's obviously a cybernetic dog or rat or whatever that was that's still around that they didn't notice and hasn't caused any problems. I also like maybe this is a complaint for later because I don't know how inconsistent they've been so far, but like they kind of draw Gateway as like a dwarf sometimes, and like he's obviously not that in this book, right? Like he's very tall and slender. It's just that crouches down and he's in sort of like a yogi pose, so to speak. And that's why he looks small sometimes. But when he stood up in this book, he seemed taller. The way he's at least the way I remember him portrayed in Generation X, much. Um, but yeah, I mean, like Jubilee is supposed to. I mean, how old is she supposed to be here? Like 14 or something? Like she's
Something
supposed.
like that.
I know they play with her ages. Like I listened to Curtis's podcast and how like at some point when she's on the X-Men, like she's of like a certain attitude and certain age, and then they try and like rapidly like make her seem younger when they throw her over on Generation X, and it's a little bit jarring there, especially if you look at like Operation Zero Tolerance. Like she looks like younger than this page on some of those pages, and obviously that's a couple of years from now. So yeah, I mean it's fine. It's a backup story in an annual. I don't mind getting a little bit of fun with like this kid running around, Indian in the cupboard style. What did you think?
I actually thought this was really fun. Now, granted, the Valley Girl captions are excessive, and I think that's the point, though. I suspect if I read this when Valley Girl slaying was much more prevalent in society than it is now, I probably would have found it annoying as hell. But nowadays, in 2026, it's a little nostalgic in a way.
I mean, have you seen Clueless?
Yes,
So I
I have.
mean, you know, that's not exact. I mean, it's a little different because it's a little bit more '90s of that style than maybe this version, which is a little bit more of the '80s version of it. Um, but yeah, very similar. And there was people that talk like that.
A random thing about Clueless. The I know it's quasi based off of a Jane Austen novel, but it's also based off of the experiences of a certain teacher who dealt with students like this. And the guy that it's also quasi based off of, he went to school with my mother, and he plays the principal in the movie. But like the teacher that is the plays the Sicilian in Princess Bride. I don't remember the
Oh
actor's
yeah, yeah.
name.
He's on Young Sheldon, and I know who you're talking about. I
Yeah,
forget his name.
he's the high school teacher
Right.
that is quasi based off of this guy that my mom went to high school with. But um,
He's a great
but
character actor, and that actually that guy, that actor, had some like weird scientific materials in his apartment in I think in New York, and like was arrested because they were like I want to say like they were like things that you could make a bomb with or something, or like, but it was like very science based. Like he was in the news in the last like year or so because of that. I will have to look that up later, but like for some like weird like just like you would think his character would be from the Princess Bride about having like weird stockpiles of stuff. Um, and he fought the charges as if he's there's nothing wrong with it. And I don't know where it ended up, but it was weird seeing him in the news. It was
hmm.
inconceivable to see him in the news like that.
All right. I think we've got one last story here, the sea story. This is the Saga of the Serpent Crown, Chapter 3, Serpent in the Garden, written by Peter Samperson, pencils by Mark Bagley, and inks by Keith Williams. Uh let's see, where have I got my oh yeah. Sam Person. Just a quick note on him. He was a frequent letter writer to DC Comics, and his analysis of their stories led to DC hiring him to read their entire backlog to compile the who's who in the DC universe. Mark Gruenwald from Marvel then hired him to essentially become the archivist for Marvel under Gruenwald's tutelage. And so naturally, he did a lot of research for Marvel's handbook. So he's kind of Gruenwald's protege. So for one of these cross universe things that you would figure would be in Grunwald's camp. Well, okay, Sam Person's doing some of it
Just
this
the
time.
guy. Did Curtis interview him? I remember there was some podcast that was some guy that worked at Marvel and did that type of work. It sounds like they described him to me, but I don't know if you're podcast.
I do not recall, to be honest.
Okay.
All right. In this one, we get a tangling of Jack Kirby's Celestial Saga with Robert E. Howard's pre-cataclysm history. Essentially, early humans encountered serpent men who worshipped the god Set, and the serpent men tried to get the early humans to turn on their own people. The early humans did not, and when the Celestials arrived and advanced evolution on Earth, the Celestials chose these humans instead of the serpent men, and eventually the human king Kull killed most of the remaining serpent men on Earth. All right, your thoughts here, Stoger.
I mean, fine. You kind of have to read this in the context of everything, all the backup stories to really generate any sort of opinion on it. So it's they're laying out a particular way that this kind of goes through. They have this like King Cole. Is that supposed to be a you know the Marvel version of Conan when we don't have Conan? Like a King Cole page here.
Kull's
Um,
another Robert E. Howard character that I think is even predates Conan in like the timeline. So Marvel doesn't have the rights to Kull anymore, but Titan does, and I think Titan had a Kull Omni that they came out with or something. I'm not sure.
yeah. Um, so yeah, it's I didn't bump into it. It was fine. What did you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it would work better if we were reading all the parts of the tale. Alone and out of context like this, it means little. But also, I feel like I have an appreciation of it because I have read Jack Kirby's Celestials. I have read a lot of the Conan stuff. So I know the mythology that they're trying to weave together here. And that's kind of interesting. But boy, you've got to be reading a lot of different stuff to get that.
Yeah,
So it's esoteric, right?
I do have the I did pick up the Atlantis Attacks League collection. I think it's actually called Epic Collection, even not an epic. And if I remember correctly, they take all these backup stories and they put them all together, which
Oh,
makes sense. So you don't have to flip through the books.
okay.
I'll have to flip through that and read it.
All right, this is Uncanny X-Men number 246, The Day of Other Lights. Now, we're still in one of those calm moments between storylines where we get a check in with each of the team members. The story ultimately settles in on Rogue, or rather Carol Danvers' consciousness inhabiting Rogue's body, and how the two of them are dealing with them both inhabiting this one body. Also, the Hellfire Club seems to be petitioning Senator Kelly to again renew the Sentinel program, and how convenient that this occurs when Nimrod appears back on the scene. Well, Nimrod also stumbles upon some circuitry at a construction site that turns him into the Master Mold. The transformation attracts the attention of Rogue, who is quickly batted away, and she also ends up landing through Senator Kelly's. All right, Soldier, your thoughts on this one?
I enjoyed this a lot. I feel like it's like we're back to form for the X-Men sort of fighting a Sentinel-esque character here. Um I think the Senator Kelly stuff is going to be really interesting as we move forward here and how it's going to impact the mutant relations with the government, especially what happens over the course of the next issue or
The art is, I mean, Sylvester is doing good work here, but like we're back to on a lot of or most of these pages, we're back to more of that like washed out look. Now, not so much as I say that on the pages that I have up on the screen, but if I go back to some of the earlier pages in the book, where you get a lot of this kind of, everything's the same color. It's a little bit, it's not as bright and shiny as it was, or dark, colorful as it was maybe during Inferno. But there's some really good stuff here, right? Like that's a creepy looking, dazzler that she's seeing herself through. I guess that's the Siege Perilous that she's holding. Um, I especially like the, as a big U2 fan, I like the fact that they got the rattle and hum set on here. I showed my wife that concert. I was very happy to see that. And I like Nimrod. I don't really know why this like futuristic sentinel type thing is trying to be like a superhero. Like I get it. Like we established this before, but it's still like a little head scratchy. So, why that happens. We also get a little bit of an explanation as to why Wolverine's going to disappear for a little bit and go hang out in his own comic. And looks like he's playing with some styling gel there, which is pretty interesting. I thought his hair naturally did that little thing that. But at the end of the day, I really enjoyed this issue. I had a lot of fun with it. Looking forward to what's happen next. Would
Yeah, I like that we're starting to get back to a major plot, right? So this is good. I also like the weird dynamic that we get between Carol and Rogue both inhabiting the same body. Now, we talked about that previously, that this is just a psychic imprint of Carol on Rogue. To which point I'm kind of confused as to why Carol wants to go back to her old apartment. Because if Carol Danvers really is still alive, there's no reason for Rogue to go there. And if Carol Danvers is alive, I don't know where she is at this point. If she's out in space as
still
binary
with
or
the
what.
Starjammers, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, she rejoined the. She was, I guess, that was before all this. So she was on the Avengers before this. She never comes back to the. She does not come back to the Avengers until, I guess, like after Heroes Reborn. I don't think she's back on the Avengers before Heroes. So yeah, she, for all intents and purposes, she's out in space with Corsair.
Well, in which case, maybe that answers my question of why the heck is there an apartment still there? Well, if she's out in space, and it does say that the person running the apartment building is looking after it for her, so I guess that's how she can get away with just checking it out. I'd forgotten something until you had put the comic viewer over at their Stoger. Wolverine and Storm are hanging out in the beginning there, and they're both in their skivvies. Are we trying to suggest something here? Are the two of them a little closer than because they're in Wolverine's room, I assume, because he's doing his hair there, so it makes sense why he's just in a t-shirt and whatever. But Storm's just trouncing around in her underwear.
Yeah,
That doesn't seem
I mean, Storm walks around half naked a lot. She's kind of a little bit of a
okay. Yeah.
nudist, so it might just be that. But pretty sure like during Jason Aaron's run or during like the Wolverine and the X-Men run, she her and him were together. Like they, so like after she leaves Black Panther, happened there. So eventually they do become a bit of a thing. So I always assume that they're just like friends with benefits.
Okay. I'm not going to judge. They're adults. They can do what they want, right?
I mean, for the moment they're
All
adults,
right.
but eventually they won't be. He's one of them.
I was gonna say, don't tell me Wolverine becomes a child. I remember Storm does, but
Yeah, well, that's right around the corner. So,
yeah.
all
All
right.
right, should we move on to the next one and last one for this cursed episode? Only cursed to us because we've had all these technical difficulties. Hopefully, we've patched it together well enough on the final one you guys are seeing. All right, this is Uncanny X-Men number 247, The Light That Failed, like my hope for this episode. Uh, All right, the X-Men continue their battle against the Master Mold slash Nimrod hybrid to little effect. It seems the robot is learning and adapting to their attacks. In a desperate attempt to defeat the robot, Dazzler throws the Siege Perilous at it, which she had pocketed in the previous issue. Well, the robot anchors itself, though, and does not fall into the portal. Instead, it analyzes itself, revealing two different programs within. There's both Nimrod and the Master Mold, and this means the robot itself has mutated. And since it's part of its programming, it decides it has to destroy itself because it has to destroy all mutants. As a result of the robot's destruction, Rogue gets blown into the Siege Perilous, and once the battle is over, it is revealed that Senator Kelly's wife was the only casualty, although Rogue has disappeared, so supposedly she's a casualty too. And then in his grief, the senator okays Sebastian Shaw's plan to restart the Sentinel program, which, dude, it was a Sentinel that basically took out your wife. But nope, he's gonna say nope, it's the mutant's fault. All right, Stozier, your thought?
I mean, first of all, logic and politics don't really go together at all. So, I think that plays into. And it doesn't the Siege Perilous send you to like wherever you want to go or something like that. So like, she's not dead. She's like she went to like it wasn't the idea like they could go through it and they would get like their heart's desire or something like that.
I thought it was it shoot. It's like the weighing of the heart and the feather in Egyptian mythology, right? It's judging you based on your actions, and from there, I don't know, but maybe I misunderstood that.
Yeah. Um. So I mean, look, I had a lot of fun with this. I think the battle with this sort of mega sentinel, master mold is really good. And I mean, come on, how can you not love an issue where you have a computerized panel like this?
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is like early 1980s. Like, I'm not even sure why they went with something this bad in 1989. I mean, we had at least Nintendo by this point. So this was like, like level 1 Atari graphics here. But it was cool that they drew it that way. Also found it interesting how like they have this set up to say like, well, they can't be registered by things, but because it's mutating, it's sort of like it's able to start to figure this out and what's going on. Get the exact explanation they had in here, but they're starting to break away at that, like none of the electronics can pick them up type of thing. I think the art's pretty strong. Again, I'm not huge fan of Silvestri at this era. I stopped pretending that I was going to be, but like everything doesn't look washed out in this issue for whatever reason, right? So you get some distinctive coloring between things. It's not all just like kind of one shade of stuff, and there's some real stakes here, like with Senator Kelly losing his wife in this issue. So yeah, I think this is good. It's really good. What do you think?
Yeah, agree with that. Definitely good. I like the plot twist of the robot taking itself out. I feel like I've seen that before, but that might have been in another interpretation of the X-Men, like maybe that was in the cartoon or something. Um, as you said, clearly working and setting up future storylines and future storylines with promise, right? That the Sentinels could be coming back. So that's interesting. And I'm guessing that Rogue being thrown into the Siege Perilous is somehow going to help resolve this multiple personality problem that she currently has, which that'll be fine too. I think it's an interesting dynamic that she is fighting Carol Danvers within herself and that sort of thing, but I also don't want that to overstay its welcome, right? That can start to get annoying if it's around for too long. So if that gets cleared up, that would be fine too. But I don't know.
Do you feel like that kind of came out of nowhere though? Like we kind of like we spent a lot of time with Rogue. I don't know, 50 issues with Rogue, like 175 through 25, right? Shift that a little bit based, I might not be exact. And then all of a sudden, like randomly in the Outback, she just starts to have like, I mean, I guess there was the trauma of what happened to Genosha, and that's the explanation. But you
That's
know,
how I took it.
and they even downplayed it. I think it was in the issue that we read where they they sort of downplayed that trauma where they were like, well, nothing actually happened. It was just the fact that she's like never able to be touched, and then she was touched without her, you know. But like the original book that we read, I thought that they straight up like essayed her, you know.
Yeah. Um, yeah, no, that's the way I interpreted it. It was the assault that she had in Genosha triggered this. She retreated into her mind. Carol Danvers kind of came out, and that's why there's now this dynamic that Danvers had been suppressed. Well, actually, when we first brought Rogue in, she was slipping back and forth between herself and Danvers. There's that one issue where she, threw the quarter at the Shield helicarrier, and Danvers kind of took control, having memories of her boyfriend, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So maybe it is, Professor X was helping her suppress that and be herself, but then that trauma brought Danvers back out. Maybe, I don't know. We're trying to earn a no prize here with our explanation.
I'm with you. All right.
All right. Yeah, I think that is all we have for those issue this episode. For future episodes, though, I don't know why that picture is missing there, or maybe that's just coming in on my end. But uh,
No, that you're looking for the cover or something.
yeah, I thought
Yeah.
there was a cover on that. Weird, it's gone.
It disappeared. Double check.
Everyone's
Oh,
getting to
it's
see behind the scenes.
oh, there it is. Picture can't be displayed. All
Weird.
right. Other
Okay.
technical difficulty.
Yeah, it's one of those days. I don't have my physical copy with me. I left it in the other room. But after this one, we are going to be reading Avengers Epic Collection Volume 18 Heavy Metal. We'll do 2 weeks on that. Those episodes should drop June 18th and June 25th. Following that, again, no pictures. I don't know why. We're going to get the X-Men Epic Collection Volume 17, Disillusion and Rebirth. And then we're going to add on a couple from Marvel Unlimited so that we can keep with this Claremont run. So X-Men Annual 14 and Uncanny X-Men 268 to 269. Following that, we've got the winner of our last poll, DC Finest Batman 1986 to 7. This is Batman Year 1 and 2. Again, we'll split that up into 2 episodes, July 16th and July 23rd. And then I think I've got one last one on the slide there. Yeah, definitely a distinct difference in size there. Although sometimes that is just the paper quality, right?
Yeah, but I think
Okay, to
these
keep with the
are. I think there's maybe 200 pages difference in this. I think the Batman one has 600 pages, and these X-Men ones maybe are or something.
Gotcha. To keep with the Claremont run, and to get us into the first 2 weeks of August, we will read the New Mutants Epic Collection Volume 8, The End of the Beginning. Plus, we'll have to tack on a couple of Uncanny X-Men from Marvel Unlimited onto that. That's 273 to 277. But I believe there's a decent amount of crossover on that one, and that's why we've chosen it to fill in. Right?
And
Is
why
that
do
correct,
we? And
Stoker?
why are we reading the New Mutants there?
Um,
Extinction
that's
Agenda.
not a. Is that Extinction Agenda?
Yeah, that's
Is
Extinction Agenda. Yeah,
oh,
the entire crossovers in there.
I keep thinking Executioner Song. That's
Yeah.
that's why. That's why I'm
No,
confused. I was like, I
Executioner
thought X
Song.
Force.
Yeah, no, Executioner Song is an X Force and an X-Men volume, so it's on my shelf twice, but that's down the line a little bit. So
Okay. All right. So yeah, that's why we've got that one is for that crossover. Um I don't know when the Claremont run ends and so
it
forth. I
would
mean, we're definitely
end with like X-Men number 3, I think.
the adjectiveless X-Men number 3.
I think so.
Okay.
I think it's 3 or something like that. Like very the first couple issues.
Yeah.
Because he kicks that off, and then Jim Lee kind of takes over and whatever happens there. So then we'll have to figure out if we keep going at all, or if we just stop there. So
Yeah, we'll need to have a conversation about that, Stoker. I've got some ideas, but we'll leave that for a conversation offline. All right, any other final thoughts, Stoker?
no, looking forward to a bunch of video editing, trying to stitch all these technical things back together. So hopefully it doesn't cause a problem for anybody else. So
Look at all
All
those
good.
pictures are just gone.
Yeah,
All right.
maybe because I killed some processes and trying to reference the.
Yeah. It's another curse episode, but can't be anywhere near as cursed as that Daredevil episode. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Again, if you enjoy us, like, subscribe on YouTube. We've got a lot of things planned to come down the pike and hopefully less video problems. All right. I think that's it.